Outdoor adventures promise excitement, but sometimes they lead to unimaginable tragedy. In this video, we'll uncover 5 more real stories of adventurers who faced nature's deadliest challenges and paid the ultimate price. These are the moments where ambition met disaster, leaving behind chilling lessons in survival. It was August 2, 1998, when 48-year-old Mike Turner, a Presbyterian minister from Idaho, began a solo hike into Wyoming's Fitzpatrick Wilderness. Accompanied by his loyal black Labrador, Andy, Mike sought solitude to reflect and reconnect with his faith. This 9-day journey through rugged terrain was meant to be a spiritual escape from the demands of his work and family. However, what began as a peaceful trek turned into a fight for survival, ultimately leading to a tragic end. Mike was an experienced outdoorsman, familiar with the challenges of wilderness hiking. For him, these trips were more than physical adventures. They were opportunities for spiritual renewal and clarity. Supported by his wife Diane and their 3 children, Mike often ventured into the wild to find peace and strength. On the 4th day of his hike, as he and Andy reached an elevation of around 13,000 feet, Andy started struggling. The icy, rough terrain had made the dog's paws raw, prompting Mike to change his route. Wanting to ease Andy's discomfort, Mike chose a different path, a decision that set him on a dangerous course. While traversing a boulder-filled area near a lake, Andy darted ahead into the trees. Mike followed, discovering a lake surrounded by unstable rocks. As Andy happily drank from the lake, Mike carefully navigated the boulders to reach him. But one rock shifted under his weight, trapping him between massive stones. Though uninjured, Mike was completely immobilized. Mike tried desperately to free himself but couldn't. Realizing he was stuck, he focused on survival. He had limited food and 2 quarts of water. The lake was just 30 feet away, but he couldn't reach it. Over the next several days, Mike rationed his water and began saving his urine, hoping to mix it with a drink powder he carried. His journal detailed his worsening condition and dwindling hope. The days brought intense heat, with temperatures soaring to 37 degrees Celsius, while the nights were near freezing. Mike's journal reflected his growing despair. At first, he remained hopeful that rescuers would find him. But as days passed, his optimism faded. He documented his fears of losing his legs, running out of resources, and succumbing to the cold. His writing became darker, showing a man wrestling with his faith and mortality. Back home, Diane became worried when Mike didn't meet her as planned. They had agreed to reunite at a specific location on the 9th day. When Mike failed to arrive, Diane alerted authorities, sparking a search. However, because Mike had deviated from his planned route, rescuers searched in the wrong area. After 5 days, the search was called off. On August 28th, 17 days after Mike's disappearance, 2 backpackers found Andy wandering miles from the original search area. The dog was very weak but alive. His discovery led to a renewed search effort in the correct location. On August 31st, hiker Jeff Stewart spotted what looked like a man sitting near an unnamed lake. As Jeff approached, he realized the man was unresponsive. It was Mike Turner. Authorities later confirmed that Mike had passed away due to exposure, dehydration, and hypothermia. His body was found nearly a month after his journey began. Mike's journal detailed his final days and his enduring love for his family. In his last entry, he expressed gratitude for the life he had lived, stating that he was always thinking of his loved ones, no matter where he was or what he was doing. Near his body, his wedding ring rested carefully on a rock, a poignant symbol of his love and devotion. Mike's tragic story highlights the unpredictable dangers of the wilderness, even for experienced hikers. A small decision made out of care for his dog ultimately led to his untimely passing. His legacy is one of faith, courage, and love, forever remembered by those he left behind. In August 1999, 2 best friends, Rafi Kodikian and David Coughlin, set out on a road trip from Boston, Massachusetts to California. This trip was meant to celebrate their friendship before Coughlin began graduate school at the University of California, Santa Barbara. During their journey, they decided to camp at Rattlesnake Canyon in New Mexico's Carlsbad Caverns National Park, a destination known for its challenging terrain. However, what was supposed to be an adventure turned into a tragedy. Both 26 years old, COULDN, an aspiring journalist, and Coughlin, a traffic policy analyst, shared a close bond. They planned to camp for a night in the canyon and return to their car the next day. But things quickly went wrong. The pair lost their way, unable to find the trail back to their vehicle. Despite having a map, neither was skilled in navigation, leaving them stranded in the harsh desert. Their water supply, consisting of 3 pints of water and 1 pint of Gatorade, was insufficient. Desperation set in as they tried to survive by licking rocks for moisture and eating cactus fruit, which offered little nourishment. COULDN even attempted to drink his urine but failed. The desert heat and lack of hydration took a severe toll, leaving them weak and disoriented. By the 3rd day, Coughlin's condition worsened significantly. He began vomiting, likely due to eating unripe cactus fruit, and showed signs of severe distress. Unable to endure the suffering, he reportedly begged COULDN to end his pain. In a state of exhaustion and emotional turmoil, COULDN claimed he acted on his friend's request, using a knife to end Coughlin's life. He later wrote in his journal about the incident, describing it as a decision made out of desperation and compassion. COULDN buried Coughlin's body under rocks, an act that raised questions given his weakened state. Days later, park rangers found COULDN, dehydrated but alive. He admitted to what had happened and led the rangers to Coughlin's body. An autopsy revealed Coughlin's condition was not as dire as described, and his vomiting was attributed to the cactus fruit rather than severe dehydration. This raised doubts about COULDN's account. The case led to intense speculation. Was this truly an act of mercy, or was there more to the story? Some questioned whether underlying tensions between the friends played a role, though no evidence of conflict was found. During his trial, COULDN's defense argued that his actions stemmed from a mutual agreement between the friends, driven by their dire circumstances. The prosecution, however, maintained that COULDN was not in immediate danger and could have sought help instead. In the end, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 years in prison with all but 2 years suspended. He served 16 months before being released. The sentencing divided public opinion. Some believed COULDN had already endured enough, while others felt a harsher punishment was warranted. The judge acknowledged COULDN's remorse but emphasized the seriousness of his actions. Even years later, the incident remains a topic of debate. Experts argue that dehydration is survivable with proper care, and questions linger about whether Coughlin's death could have been prevented. Could they have survived if they had been better prepared or had more resources? Did COULDN overestimate the severity of Coughlin's condition? In reflecting on the tragedy, COULDN expressed the emotional weight of his decision, believing that anyone in his position who abandoned their friend would not have been deserving of survival. This perspective highlights his inner conflict, but leaves unanswered questions about whether his actions were truly justified. This heartbreaking case continues to prompt discussions about human survival, the pressures of extreme situations, and the difficult decisions people face in life-or-death scenarios. It is a reminder of the importance of preparation and the unpredictability of the wilderness, leaving behind a story that is both tragic and thought-provoking. In August 1974, a mountaineering tragedy unfolded in the Pamir Mountains, located on the border of Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. The disaster involved a daring all-female Soviet team led by Elvira Shatayeva, a respected mountaineer and pioneer for women in climbing. Their mission was to scale Lenin Peak, a 23,405-foot summit, and safely descend. However, this expedition took a devastating turn. The team, made up of experienced climbers, began their ascent on August 5, 1974. Elvira, who had previously climbed Lenin Peak, led this bold group, aiming to complete a historic all-female climb. Their initial progress was steady, and they successfully reached the summit, reporting their achievement to the base camp. But their triumph was short-lived. As the climbers began their descent, the weather turned against them. What started as a typical mountain storm escalated into a violent blizzard by August 6th. Strong winds and heavy snow forced the team to seek refuge in their tents. The next day, conditions worsened. One climber fell ill, likely from altitude-related sickness, leaving the group even more vulnerable. The base camp urged the team to descend, but the blizzard trapped them. By August 7th, the storm reached its peak, tearing through their tents and scattering their supplies. Left exposed to the elements, 2 climbers succumbed to the extreme cold, while the climber who had been unwell passed earlier. The remaining team members were left to fight for survival in freezing temperatures. In their final radio message to base camp, the climbers conveyed that only 2 of them remained, completely exhausted, with mere minutes left to survive. The message reflected the dire situation they faced. Galina Perikodyuk, one of the last survivors, sent a heartbreaking message expressing concern for their children, apologizing for their efforts, and conveying their love. Exhausted, exposed to the cold, and lacking resources, their fate was sealed. The storm finally subsided the following day. Japanese and American climbers ascending Lenin Peak found the site of the tragedy. 7 of the 8 Soviet women were discovered frozen in the snow. Elvira's body was found near the remains of a collapsed tent. Other climbers were found clutching ropes or lying scattered along the slope, their remains testifying to the harsh conditions they faced. One climber's body was never recovered, likely swept away by the storm. The loss of the Soviet women climbers marked one of the worst disasters in mountaineering history. Despite their skill and preparation, the team was overwhelmed by the unpredictable and deadly weather. Lenin Peak, notorious for its dangerous conditions, proved unforgiving. Questions about the disaster have lingered. In The Ascenders, journalist Anatoly Ferapontov noted unusual details in photos of the site, such as a teapot placed on a rock despite the fierce blizzard. He also questioned the extent of damage to the tents, suggesting psychological stress may have played a role. However, no concrete evidence supports these theories. For those who knew the climbers, the tragedy was a profound loss. Elvira Shatayeva was admired for her leadership and commitment to advancing women's roles in mountaineering. Leading this all-female expedition to Lenin Peak was a significant step toward breaking barriers. The events of August 1974 are a powerful example of the risks involved in high-altitude climbing and how nature's unpredictability can turn even a well-prepared expedition into a deadly ordeal. It was February 2017, a hot summer day in New Zealand. Rachel Louise de Jong, a 21-year-old physiotherapy student, was on a road trip with her friends. They were heading back to Auckland after attending a concert in Rotorua. On their way, they decided to stop at a popular tourist spot, the Waikato River, for a quick break. What was meant to be a relaxing stop turned into a tragedy that changed their lives forever. Rachel was with a group of close university friends, including Maddie, Gemma, and sisters Alice and Michaela. 2 boys, Reese and Sam, were also with them. They arrived at the Aratiatia Rapids, a scenic but dangerous area near the Aratiatia Dam. The rapids were known for their breathtaking views when the dam gates opened, releasing a powerful rush of water, a spectacle locals called the tourist spill. The group decided to explore the river. They followed a well-worn track down to the water, unaware that a warning sign had been stolen weeks earlier. Without clear signs of danger, they believed the area was safe for swimming and taking photos. Around noon, a siren sounded, signaling that the dam gates were about to open. The friends, still in the water, thought they had time to leave, but the situation quickly escalated. Moments later, the gates released a torrent of water, and the calm river turned into a violent current. The group tried to escape, but found themselves stranded on a rock in the middle of the river as the water surged. Reese and Sam managed to climb to higher ground, but Rachel, Maddie, Alice, and Michaela were stuck. The current grew stronger, and the water level continued to rise. In the chaos, Rachel took charge, risking her safety to help her friends. She managed to guide Maddie to safety first. Then she and Alice leaped to another rock. However, the rising water left them with no time to spare. Rachel tried to assist Michaela, but as Michaela reached safety, Rachel lost her grip. The powerful current swept her away. Her body was later found downstream. The tragedy deeply affected her family and friends, who remembered Rachel as a kind and brave person. Her final act of courage trying to save her friends was a reflection of her selfless nature. Two German tourists, Katrin Taylor and Kevin Kiao, witnessed the terrifying event from a viewing platform. They saw the group struggling on the rock, with the rising water making escape nearly impossible. The tourists observed that some of the group made it to safety, but Rachel was swept away before reaching higher ground. This incident showed serious safety issues around Arreciatia Rapids. The missing warning sign at the track the group used to access the river played a significant role in the tragedy. After Rachel's death, the local council and Mercury Energy, the company managing the dam, installed new fences and replaced the signs. However, many believed these measures were insufficient. Rachel's father, Kevin, expressed his grief and frustration, describing her as a bright and caring young woman who brought joy to everyone she met. He criticized the lack of effective safety measures, pointing out that if smart, responsible people could be caught off guard, it was clear the system wasn't working. Following the tragedy, Coroner Wallace Bain investigated and recommended banning swimming in the area below the dam. He emphasized that current warnings were inadequate and that a strict swimming ban was necessary to prevent further loss of life. However, the local council argued they lacked the authority to enforce such a ban. Mercury Energy supported stricter rules, but little progress has been made. Despite these efforts, the Arreciatia Rapids remain a popular destination. Tourists continue to visit, and some even swim in the river, ignoring the risks. This raises concerns about whether enough has been done to ensure public safety. Rachel's story is a reminder of how unpredictable nature can be and the importance of clear safety measures in hazardous areas. Her selflessness and bravery will always be remembered, but her untimely death highlights the urgent need for better protection to prevent similar tragedies in the future. On December 23, 2024, in Greece, a tragic accident claimed the life of Clara Toman, a 33-year-old physics teacher from Santa Barbara, California. Clara was on a hiking trip with her partner, Elliot Finn. The couple was exploring the area near the Preveli Monastery on the island of Crete. At the time, Clara was 6 months pregnant with their first child. This trip was meant to be a peaceful getaway before welcoming their baby. Clara was known for her love of teaching and adventure. As a physics teacher at Dos Pueblos High School, she had a talent for making difficult topics fun and relatable. Students and colleagues admired her for her kindness, enthusiasm, and dedication. Clara frequently shared her experiences on social media, showcasing her passion for life, nature, and learning. That afternoon, while hiking along a rugged trail near the monastery, Clara lost her footing and fell 50 meters into a steep gorge. The area was remote and difficult to access, complicating rescue efforts. Nearby construction workers witnessed the fall and immediately called for help. Rescue teams, including 21 firefighters, arrived to assist. They faced significant challenges due to the rough terrain. Clara was critically injured, suffering severe trauma to her head and chest. Despite this, she was found conscious when rescuers reached her. After first aid was administered, she was carefully transported to a safe area and rushed to Rethymno Hospital. Although Clara arrived at the hospital alive, her injuries were too severe, and she was transferred to Chania General Hospital for specialized treatment. Despite the efforts of the medical team, Clara's condition worsened. On December 29, 2024, she was declared brain dead. Her unborn child, whom she had named Theodoro, also did not survive. Clara's passing left Elliot and her family heartbroken. Her parents and siblings traveled to Greece to be by her side during her final days. The family shared their grief and memories on the Caring Bridge website, describing Clara as a dedicated teacher and a loving person who brought people together. One of Clara's wishes was to donate her organs. Her family honored this, and her heart, liver, and pancreas were given to patients in need. This final act of kindness reflected her lifelong commitment to helping others. Clara's death deeply affected her school community. At Dos Pueblos High School, students remembered her as a teacher who made learning enjoyable and supported them in and out of the classroom. Parents shared stories of how their children loved being in her class, and one parent, Jennifer Games Sparrow, called Clara her son's favorite teacher. Principal Bill Woodard expressed the school's grief, describing Clara as a kind and inspiring educator. Colleagues and students mourned her loss, recalling her ability to connect with everyone and her positive impact on countless lives. Elliot shared how he and Clara's family were coping with their loss. They spent time visiting beaches and collecting mementos in her honor. Elliot also planned to scatter Clara's ashes in Greece and Turkey, places they had planned to explore together. Clara and her baby's remains were cremated in Athens on January 3, 2025. Clara's story raises difficult questions about how such a tragedy could have been prevented. Despite the what-ifs, the reality remains that her life ended in a devastating accident. Though her life was cut short, Clara's memory lives on through her family, students, and the people she inspired. Her dedication to teaching and her love for her family and friends continue to be remembered. Clara's legacy is one of kindness, passion, and generosity, a lasting tribute to the meaningful life she led.